Today is August 23rd, 2026, and welcome to the 502nd episode of the Video Games podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway, and I am the one-man host of the show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a reviews website that offers full accessibility information on every review that we publish. Hello! Thank you all for joining me here today on number 502. Recently passed that big milestone. Very proud of that. Thanks to everyone who helped us celebrate. Today is going to be a packed show, and there's lots to talk about, so I am going to forego any life updates. Nothing going on anyway. It's just stuff and things, this and that. Doing the do, nothing too super special or exciting, which in some ways is totally fine. So we're going to get right to business. So let's start with some housekeeping today. I was looking at my list. I keep a list of all the games I play in preparation for GOTY time in December and for other purposes. And I noticed that yesterday I crossed my 151st game off the list. So far in 2026, I have played 151 games. And it is, I want to say it's day 235 out of the year, out of a total of 365, as you all know. And doing the math, which admittedly is not my strong point, that means I have played basically more or less, roughly, basically one new game every 2 days or so. So that's a pretty quick pace. That's a lot of games covered. That's a lot of things talked about on the show. Obviously I don't buy all those games. There's no way. I'd have to be like a millionaire. A lot of those codes I get for this podcast and also for GameCritics.com. So that makes that pace possible. But also it's a lot of games to play, and it shows, how many I stick with. I mean, so far in the year, I think I've only finished, I want to say maybe like 12 or 14 games. So 12 or 14, give or take, out of 151 kind of tells you how many have really stuck with me this year, how many have been really memorable and have really, got me glued to my controller. So just a little statistic there that I thought was interesting. I'm not sure what the final tally will be when we get to December. The problem with this is, like, when I actually do get to a good game, that's one problem because it takes up more time than usual. The second problem is when that game is really good and it's also really long. That's like a double problem. I recently talked about Beast of Reincarnation, which I really liked. I got about 15 hours into it, and then I kind of tapped out. I felt like 15 hours in another timeline would have been more than enough to get that game done. I feel like Game Freak, the developers, are kind of dragging their feet on that one a little bit. I may come back to it, but considering the pace I have to keep up, I was thinking that to put in at least another 10 or 15 hours didn't feel worth it. So that's kind of what happened to that one. I'm still in, the beginning half of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which I am really deeply enjoying, but it is such a monster game. I mean, that's going to be at least, I don't know, depending on how quickly I run it, whether I just do the story missions or if I do more, easily 40, 50 hours, and probably like double that if I want to do like all the extra stuff. So that's a problem. I haven't gotten back to Graveyard Keeper yet, which I've probably still got another 50, 60 hours ahead of. And then I just recently started another game, which I will talk about at the end of this episode. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. And seems great. Seems real high quality. It also seems fucking huge. And so I want to finish all these games. And, just reality speaking here, 100 hours invested into Black Flag is 100 hours not invested into, 25 other games, right? So it's all about choices. It's all about how you spend your time. And on top of that, we are all finite beings. I'm not a vampire living in a basement somewhere who's got all of eternity to go through my backlog. So it's really doubly choosy, right? Like, what am I going to cover for this year and how many games I'm going to cover with my actual lifespan? That's something you got to start thinking about after a certain point. So it's getting tough. But anyway, I say all this stuff just as a way of thinking about time and, mortality, and about games, and about being on the content mill, and about making a podcast, and what's it like to be a podcaster and a games editor and all these things. So just something to think about. But basically one new game every 2 days or so. Blistering pace. There's a couple other things going on today. Full disclosure, I have not had the time to fully investigate. I am not a journalist. I've talked about this on the show before, but I do not think games reviewer and games journalist are even remotely the same thing. And so somebody who is really good at reviewing games does not automatically make them really good at being a journalist, and vice versa. So there's a couple of journalism things going on today that I am only scratching the surface of, and I am in no way saying these are the complete stories. The first thing is just like the Grand Theft Auto 6 thing going around is just fucking madness. I'm going to leave this to other people to cover in more depth, but basically, well, basically Rockstar, the developer of Grand Theft Auto, has been under siege for a while. They've been blackmailed several times over the last couple of years, especially now this year because they're getting closer to release. There's been multiple blackmail attempts. They're actually currently undergoing some other blackmail attempt or leak attempt or something. It's a lot of stuff happening. The story is kind of like literally breaking in real time right now. And the most recent update I heard was that there's a leaking organization who got a copy of like a copy of the game, the complete game. Apparently it's like a slightly older build, but still pretty complete. So basically what people can expect when they buy the game, whenever it drops. And they've been leaking videos and showing pictures of it and showing, I mean, apparently it's beyond reproach. I mean, people are saying it must be the real thing because, there's no way they could be faking that much stuff. So a little bit of a conflicting story. Some people are saying they want money. Some people are saying they want nothing. Some people are saying they're trying to force Rockstar into releasing physical discs. I don't know what is the accurate story, and I'm not trying to like rumor monger here. I keep hearing all these different things from people in the Discord, on social media, Instagram, Blue Sky, whatever. It's just like there's just all sorts of stuff. I know that people over at Forbes, who are usually pretty reliable about this kind of stuff, are reporting. They're like reporting like every hour on the hour about their new stories about what's going on. It's just a crazy, crazy situation. But there's a lot of shit happening with Grand Theft Auto 6 right now. So I guess dip into that if you wish. The other thing I'm going to mention is that I don't know what triggered this, but apparently it seems like Sony Europe, I'm not sure about Sony America, but Sony Europe apparently resent out a list of like the end user licensing agreements. I don't know what prompted that or if there's any changes, but a lot of people are getting that email either today or yesterday as of the time of recording. And this on top of the recent, Sony saying that they're going to be phasing out of physical and people finally realizing what that actually means to the detriment of consumers. And there's also a planned PlayStation, strike, ban, boycott coming up. I think it starts tomorrow. I want to say the 24th, August 24th. I could be wrong on that. I was just very, very, very quickly skimming through these stories before I started recording here. Again, not a journalist, folks. Never claimed to be. So I guess maybe Sony's worried about the PlayStation boycott. And so they released this letter or this email. Because why? Because they're trying to piss people off? Because I don't know what's going on. But a couple of people in the EU or parts outside of America have forwarded me the email due to my requesting it. So thank you very much to, well, I guess I won't say who you are in case you don't want your name out there, but thank you to the two people who sent it to me. I really appreciate it. Cheers, cheers. Tip of the hat. And it just, it basically just outlines a bunch of stuff that we already knew, but maybe we just weren't really paying attention to. So for example, you don't own your digital games, you just rent a license. I think we've known that for a while, but I guess people weren't really bothered until recently. They're saying that if an account is closed or if your account is banned, your games are gone, even everything that you paid for. So like your library is gone. I think that's kind of getting people steamed. Apparently PlayStation can record your chats, clips, and IP address. Any clips you share, through the PSN network, they can sell and put ads on, and you don't get any profit from that. And apparently the other thing is that Sony's liability is, and again, I can't confirm this. This is what people are telling me. I'm reading summaries here. They're saying Sony's liability is £100, which means if something happens, Sony's fault, like if somebody steals your credit card number or they, I don't know, whatever, somehow harm you financially, the only thing Sony has to give you is £100 and they're not liable for anything past that, no matter how much you actually lost. So that's what's going on right now. That's kind of the talk, and people are rightfully steamed. But this is not new information. I believe this is all stuff that has been around and able to be read in your EULA, although who reads that? Nobody reads that. And in fact, now that I think about it, I do seem to recall that, at least in the States a while ago, there was a law passed saying that there was supposed to be reader consumer friendly version of EULA so that you can't do 18 pages of like small print intense legalese anymore because the average person can't read and comprehend that, which I agree with. But that, I don't know. I'm not sure that law either didn't take or people are not paying attention to it or no one's enforcing it or what, because I still see EULAs that are coming out that are just bananas. So anyway, I don't think this is new information, but I think people are just more paying attention to it right now and finally realizing how screwed and over a barrel consumers are. So I think it's definitely time that we take some rights back and change the relationship between consumer and publisher and game developer. And let's make it more equitable. Like I want people to get compensated fairly. I want artists to get paid for their work. I want game players to own the things that they buy. I want the publisher to make enough money to stay in business so they can bring us these cool experiences. I believe there is a world in which all three of these sides are treated fairly. That is not the world we live in now, obviously, but I believe there is a way or a path forward that we can all live in harmony. We can all have games, we can buy games, we can sell games, we can play games, and no one has to be getting fucked over. I think there is a reality in which that can happen. Like I said, it's not our reality now, but I think we can. So hopefully consumers will wake up a little bit, get woke, if you will, and start pushing things forward and clapping back at some of these really ridiculous overreaches from publishers. And hopefully we can, I don't know, get things off on a better foot. So, all right, there's that. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, right. As the editor of GameCritics.com, I do want to put a little spotlight on stuff you may have missed if you haven't popped over there lately. If you click on to GameCritics.com right now, you can see a number of things. I mean, there's always stuff going on. I always do several things a week. Right now, we've got 70. What the fuck is it called? I can't even remember the title of it. It's such a weird title. It's called, as I click back over, it's called 70s Style Robot Anime Geppy X. This is a really weird one. It's a remake of a game that was a fake remake of something that was like apparently, I'm not even sure if it was even a real anime. Is this like a multi-level fan project or what? But apparently it's a side-scrolling shooter that also has like tons of like hand-drawn anime in it. And I'm not sure if the anime was a real anime or if it's like a faux real anime. It's a little hard to tell, honestly. But the end result is pretty cool. Review there by Darren Foreman. He really liked it. Said it had lots of style. So if you like 70s stuff, giant robots, anime, any kind of stuff like that, check that one out. We also have a review of Jotun Slayer by CJ Salcedo. This is kind of a survivor's like. He played the Switch 2 version. He liked it. Said, it wasn't as technically impressive as it was in the other consoles or other platforms, but still a pretty solid survivor's like, if you like those. And I certainly do. We also had a review called A Game About Chopping Trees by Jason. So this is an interesting one. I'm not even sure. Jason Ricardo. Sorry, I don't think I mentioned his last name. So apparently it's a first-person game where you chop down a forest and then you buy things with the money that you get from the wood to buy equipment and tools to help you chop down things faster. And eventually you just get to this place where you're just standing in this like empty wasteland because you've chopped down all the trees. And as I read the review that Jason had written, I was reading this and I'm like, okay, this sounds like the world's biggest advertisement for the dangers of capitalism. But in Jason's review, it didn't seem like the game ended up with a message, right? Like it just seemed like, hey, let's chop some trees and kill the world. Here you go. Roll credits. And that seemed really weird to me. I think you'd have to be like a real asshole to make a game like that, a real piece of shit. And it just didn't seem right. I'm like, there must be something more to this. There may be like, is there a twist? Is there a moral at the end? Is there some kind of cautionary tale? And Jason did not feel like there was. And that was weird. And Jason's been with us for a while. He's a real smart guy. So I trust him. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I didn't play this game myself. So we ran the review and, basically Jason walked away from it with a sick feeling in his stomach. And he's like, it was gross that I cut down all these trees. I hated it. This sucked. And I go, wow, that's weird. That's a weird game. So we shared that review on Blue Sky. Whenever we publish stuff, I put it all on the social, Blue Sky and Discord and whatever. And one of the developers from that game saw the review and read it. And he's like, oh no. He's like, we actually did have a message in this game and maybe your reviewer didn't find it. And he's like, maybe there's something to this that your reviewer missed or whatever. But he's like, we actually did end on a message and we did have things to say. And it seems like your reviewer didn't get there. And the developer is like, oh, maybe we should have been more transparent, or maybe we should have done something differently. So I'm not sure what the next step here is. I guess Jason has experience and that was that. So maybe the developers want to go back and review and revisit how they communicate their message. But apparently there's more to it than just that. But I guess it's also possible that you're not going to see the whole message because reasons. So I guess I don't know the truth of this because I didn't play it myself, but apparently there's more to it than meets the eye. So that was something curious that happened this week. Also, Jason has been pretty busy. He turned in a preview for Torment Hexus, which is like a roguelike 2D strategic game married with a match 3, and it's also in a cyberpunk universe. And you also go after CEOs and kill them, which I think is a great idea. So there's lots of stuff to read over at GameCritics.com this week. Go ahead and take a look, click on over. And as stated earlier, we do have full accessibility information at the bottom of every review. So we talk about parental information if you want to screen stuff for your kids. We talk about controls if you need to remap things because you've got some physical concerns. We talk about subtitles and deaf and hard of hearing information because a lot of games have a lot of audio cues that are inaccessible to players with hearing impairments. We have colorblind info for the surprisingly large number of male players who have colorblind issues. So we've got some information there and other things as well. So we definitely want to be as accessible as possible to as wide a range of people as possible. So please come on over and check that out. We do put a lot of effort into the accessibility part. What else we got here? YouTube is still a thing for us at GameCritics.com videos. Eugene Sachs is the man behind the YouTube channel. He's doing lots of good work over there. Posted some trailers. Unfortunately, I will not name the names, but we actually had 2 separate trailers going up this week that I thought were for games that looked pretty cool, only to find out later on after the fact that the developers did not disclose AI usage until we got to the Steam page and checked it out. And both of those games said that they had used AI in development, with the follow-on statement of, oh, but we took it out for the final version. There shouldn't be anything AI in the game, which to me defeats the fucking purpose. Like, we should be using AI at all for this kind of thing for a number of reasons. Not going to get into it here, but feel free to ping me. We can have that discussion later if you wish. I've talked about it on the show many times. You shouldn't be using AI at all, motherfuckers. And it doesn't absolve you if you use generative AI behind the scenes to build your game and then you quote unquote take it out before the final version. That doesn't matter. You still used it. It's still dirty. It's still guilty, and we're still not going to cover it. So I hate to say it, but those 2 games, I've taken them off our review list. I've taken them off our radar. We're not going to run those trailers, and that's just as far as it goes with Game Critics. So I don't think AI is inevitable. I don't think everybody has to use it. I don't think it's something that is the future. I think there's lots to discuss about AI, generative AI. I think there's lots to think about, and rushing ahead willy-nilly is just not a great idea. So we're going to continue our ban of games that use AI in any way. So there you go. All right. I think that's all the preamble here. Let's get to the actual games. We're going to kick it off with a circle back, and I'm excited about this one. As y'all know, I do start the main portion of the show every week with circle backs, where I circle back to things I've covered in depth on previous episodes. Not going to get into all the details right now. This is just a quick update to let you know if my thoughts have changed on something for better or for worse after spending more time with it. Okay, the one and only circle back for this week is yet another Zombie Survivors. I have talked about this last year when it came out to consoles. I think it was in early access for a while. It was also on Xbox in the early access program, which is where I initially played it. I'm not really somebody who plays things in early access because I just want the finished product, right? I don't want to have to beta test anything. I don't want to see something half done. And if I really like it, I don't want to get to the end and find out that it's not finished. And that's kind of what happened with this game. Although I will say that when it was in the Xbox beta program, it was almost done. It was maybe 85% done, 80% done. And I just jumped in to take a quick look, but it was so fun. I just ended up playing through all the content that was there and then putting it down because it wasn't finished. But they finished it. Surprise! It's done. And I gotta say, I love this game. It is so good and so fun. It is an excellent survivors-like. It was one of my top 10 experiences of the year. I believe it was last year. I think it's on my top 10 list, even though it was still not finished. That really kind of says how good it is. And now that it's done, it's just even better. So just a quick nutshell. This is a survivors like Vampire Survivors. You are in a post-zombie wasteland, I guess. Ruined cityscapes, swamps, deserts, whatever. You start the game as a SWAT team soldier guy. He has like a pistol and kind of like that type of gear. You also unlock more characters as you go. The big hook, I mean, there's lots of details to this game. I'm not going to get into the whole thing now, but the biggest hook to this game is that unlike most Survivors likes, you actually end up with a team of 3. So you start off with the SWAT guy, and then after you've been in a level for a few minutes, you'll get an SOS. If you can make it over there and rescue that person joins your team, and then they're on the board with you. You guys move as a squad together. Ultimately, you get 3 people. So you can have like the SWAT guy, a healer, like medic, an engineer, or like maybe like you'll have like the ninja plus like the flamethrower guy plus the I don't know, technician or something. So like you get these teams of 3 that can build synergies between them. Some of them are just like, happenstance synergies, like some guns just work better with others. And then there's also official synergies where if you have a specific 2 or 3 characters, they have powers that are explicitly meant to work together. So like, for example, if you have the SWAT guy, one of his powers is like he throws grenades. So that's just like pretty straightforward. But if you team him up with I forget which guy it is, with one of the other guys, I think it's the flamethrower guy. If both those guys are on your team and you have that power activated, the grenades will still go out, but then they'll explode into napalm and stuff. So like weapons will get changed based on who you're with and if you've got the right synergies. I think the team aspect is super cool and super fun. It looks awesome because you've got 3 people kind of covering each other's backs and you move them as a unit, and it's really, really cool looking. And then the powers they give each character are really fun. And there's more than just one level of powers. They have pretty in-depth skill trees when you get back to the main menu. So each character in the game, and I believe there are either 9 or 12 it might be 12 characters. Yeah, that sounds about right. Each one has a pretty in-depth skill tree where they have distinct builds where you can emphasize some powers and not others. You can have some types of guns and not others. So you can really mix and match how each particular character plays and then have that character interplay differently with other characters that you have on your team. Great level of detail here. There's also like the overall skill tree that applies to all characters, which is great. As you play each level, there's like little micro things you can do in each level where you can chase these different power-ups. So you've got multiple levels. You've got team power-ups, you've got individual power-ups, and you've got like global power-ups. Lots of cool stuff happening. Graphics are great, controls great, and that's all fine and good. But they've just upgraded it. They just put out a big patch. So I think in total this game has been in development or just been out and about for like more than 3 years. So 1.0 is officially out. It's on Xbox. That's where I played it. And there's lots of stuff. They put in a new character, the Ranger, who has a hawk and a dog, which is pretty cool. And she's actually quite strong, actually. There's a brand new level, the Bio Lab, which has a brand new gameplay mechanic in it, which is kind of like the Fortnite, like, ever enclosing circle of death or whatever. Like it's got that in there, which actually is pretty hard to deal with. There's a boss rush mode. There's also, like one of the biggest things is like they added a hub that has not been there before. So before you would just use your character and choose a level, go. But now there's like a little camp you can go back to where you actually can talk to the survivors. They have little bits of story, quite a bit of story actually, but it's told in very small amounts. And so you can just talk to them, get a little flavor, get a sense of who they are. I think it's like the crazy flamethrower guy is like a vegan, and like one of the other ladies has like some sad backstory or whatever. Like it's pretty cool. Like none of this was necessary, but like they give you just enough to give you flavor and to get a sense of where the characters are at. Each character has character specific missions if you want to get some more gameplay out of it. There's also radio transmissions that just give you general talk about the world and about the status of things. Lots of stuff like that, which is just it's just icing on the cake, right? None of it was necessary because it was already a cool game. But getting that little bit of flavor, I think, really adds to the game, gives it like a level of polish that wasn't there before, and really can just enhance the overall presentation. I think it's really cool. They also added more stuff to the skill trees, new items, new achievements, new difficulty settings, a bunch of stuff like, faster load times, better frame rate, etc., 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 etc. So I fucking love this game. I think this is like no hyperbole. This is one of my all-time favorite Survivors Likes games. I love the Survivors Like genre. I think it's really fun. It's one of my favorite genres right now. And I think this is absolutely at the top. This is like a top 3 of the genre for me. It's like Vampire Survivors, the OG. There's like this one, and I'd have to think about the third one. I haven't played them all, It might be Let Them Come Onslaught I had a really good time with. But regardless, Yet Another Zombie Survivors has a name that makes you not want to play it. I mean, it sounds cheap and weird and like a knockoff, something you'd buy for $2 on a Steam sale or something, or in the, in the PlayStation store, like 90% off or something. But this game is the shit. It's really, really good. It's well thought out. It's exciting. It's intense. Great graphics, great systems. It really brings something new to the table with its three-person teams and the depth of customization of those teams and the different offerings, tons of modes. It's just the total package. If you like Survivors Likes games at all, if you like the Vampire Survivors formula, you got to check this one out. It's absolutely one of the best. You guys know what a picky bastard I am. And if I'm on here like saying this game is the shit, it's fucking good. I don't say that about every fucking game. I slag games that need slagging. I love this game. This game is great. I think it's just marvelous. Huge congratulations to the developers. Big props for keeping working on it like all this time and developing a really, really cherry final product that is just so nice, so well thought out, so polished, and so great. Just everything about it is just great. I love Yet Another Zombie Survivors. Still playing it now. I mean, I've already put a whole lot of time into it, but I want to max out the new Survivor. I'm going to max out some of the synergies. It's just fucking fun to play. It's great stuff. Yet Another Zombie Survivors. Get into it. It's good. Okay. That's all for the circle backs this week. Let's take a look at the upcoming new stuff here. All right, first brand new game of this show. The embargo just dropped on it like 3 days ago. Ground Zero Hero. This is a Survivors-like. In fact, I just got done fawning over Yet Another Zombie Survivors, but we have 2 other Survivors-likes that are going to be featured on the show. This is the first one. Spoiler, neither one is as good as Yet Another Zombie Survivors. Ground Zero Hero is really leaning on the art style to sell it. It's kind of reminiscent of like The Simpsons, like matte graining type art, or I think people have also described it as Rick and Morty like, perhaps. I don't know. It's got that kind of a vibe to the visuals, which is fine, but honestly, in a game like this, visuals, I mean, they're important, but they're not the most important thing. So it's a little interesting that they want the graphics to kind of carry this experience. It's not good, folks. It's not good. I'm playing it on my like 65-inch TV on the PlayStation 5, and on my giant fucking screen, the graphics are way too small. Everything is zoomed out way too far. It follows basically a very simple Survivors like formula, but there's not much to it. Like there's barely anything to it. Every run feels the same basically. And the runs are not very interesting. You have this guy, he emerges from a fallout shelter. He's in the wasteland, and it's just like this giant open space, like nothing really interesting in terms of level design going on. Not a lot of interesting like mini events going on. You chase a couple of power-ups around the map, I guess that's something to do, but like it's all just pretty bare bones. You get the same power-ups like in the same order, not necessarily every single time, but like within two runs, I kept getting the same stuff over and over, and none of it feels like interesting or powerful. There was no really cool synergies going on. It just felt like it immediately got into a grind, because to unlock other stuff, it's like, oh, kill 10,000 of this thing, or kill 1,000 of this thing, or get 500 of this thing, or whatever. And it was just like, wow, I don't need this much grind like right off the bat. And I just ended up having basically the same build. Like a guy will come out there, he has a tentacle for an arm, he gets spikes on his back, and the spikes on the back are the best weapon. He gets a fist that comes out of the ground. He shoots a fireball. I mean, it all feels pretty weak and pretty boring. And it just like immediately you fall into this grind of like, oh, I need to like just grind a bunch to see the next thing. And it just feels very repetitive and very dull. It feels like this game takes the wrong lessons from Survivors likes. I didn't get any crazy synergies. I didn't get any really visually impressive powers. Nothing I got maybe changed the way that I played. It just felt like I immediately strapped into the grind machine, and that's not where I want to be. Also, in order to complete a level, you have to kill 1,000 enemies. And I guess maybe in some games that's not a lot. Like in Vampire Survivors, that's not a lot. But in this game, it felt like an endless amount. I don't think I ever got close to 1,000. I just got like so bored before I even got close that I was like, this is really, really dull. It's just a drag. No mini objectives, no real perks, no real surprises. Just a very straightforward, kind of low effort game that seems to be really relying on its art style to carry it. But I mean, the art style stops mattering after the first run, and it's already so zoomed out anyway, like it doesn't even really matter. So I think Ground Zero Hero was just like a giant drag. I had like zero fun with it. I ended up doing, oh gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5 runs, and they were all basically identical, and they were all equally boring. And I'm like, dude, this is not it. This is not it. So I cannot recommend this one in good conscience. There's like 1,000 other Survivors likes that are like more fun than this one. So I mean, I guess if you love the art style, go for it, but I just honestly don't think there's much to recommend this one. So there you go. Ground Zero Hero. It was a drag. Okay, next up is a game called Good Pizza, Great Pizza. Now, this is a special one. This was a request from superfan Ron. What up, Ron? How's it going, my friend? Thank you very much for bringing this to my attention. Ron got in touch with me and said this might be relevant to my interests, and so I'm always thrilled when someone recommends something like this to me, so I jumped on it, downloaded it that night, gave it a shot. Interesting game. Basically, it is a kind of a cozy pizza restaurant running game where you open up a brand new pizza shop and then you have customers come in, they tell you their various orders, and then you go to the pizza kitchen and make the pizzas and then give it to them. And if the order's right, you get money. You use that money to upgrade your kitchen, get better ovens, get better countertops, better cash register, etc., etc. You've got a rival pizza guy across the street who comes in and talks shit to you once in a while. And it's just pretty straightforward and cozy. The writing, I think, is a strong point of this one. People come in, they don't say very much, like just a few lines, but sometimes it's funny or cute or endearing. And often they'll say something that's really weird. Like, for example, they'll be like, oh, can I get a pepperoni pizza with no pepperoni? Or, oh, I really want like something super bready, so just like surprise me or whatever. And you're like, what? What does that even mean? And as someone who works retail, and I'm sure other people who work retail can verify, a lot of times customers come in and they're just very unclear about what they want. They don't quite know what they're after. And so it's just really hard sometimes to make them happy. And that's kind of the vibe this game gives off, but in a positive way. It's never super hard to figure out. And it's just kind of funny and endearing. So I played this on the Switch too. I think it looks great on the Switch too. But I will say I had a problem with this game, and I think that it's probably specific to the Switch too. So when you go back to the kitchen to make the pizzas, it's pretty okay at the beginning. You use the bumpers and the sticks and kind of move things around. You get a ball of dough, you flatten it out. But then the problem for me is that the sticks are super like sensitive and weird, and there's a weird dead zone. And that's always been true of the Switch in general, Switch or Switch 2. So like it was really irritating to try to spread the sauce on the pizza because you're using I think it was the left stick. It's one of the sticks. And it just is like so wonky. Like you overcorrect and then it's not enough, and then it's too much, then it's not enough. And it just was really awkward. Then you got to do the same thing with the cheese, and it's just the stick did not handle it very well. And that was like irritating. Just to control it was irritating. But the worst thing, and the straw that really broke this particular camel's back, with that me being the camel, is the like putting on toppings, putting on like pepperoni or sausage or whatever. Like you got to put them in specific spots. You want to put 3 toppings per slice. And so trying to do that with these fucked up sticks was like driving me insane. It was so fiddly and squirrely and hard to control. And I went to the settings. There's no way to control the sensitivity of the sticks. There's no way to adjust the dead zone, which blows because I really need to do that. I'm like, okay, well, this is a Switch too. Obviously it's got touch controls, right? Nope, no touch controls at all. Because I was like, okay, I can use my finger and just draw a circle to put the sauce on the pizza with my finger, and I can tap it to do the pepperonis. Would that work? Nope, can't do it. So I think this is a cute game. I mean, lots of repetition, clearly. I mean, you're like running a pizza joint. You're making pizzas all the time. You're going to make pizzas like 24/7. But that's fine enough as it is. I honestly think my problem with this game was just the Switch 2 controls do not mesh well with this game. And without having any kind of options to change how it handles, it was just driving me insane to try to play this. Like, it was so irritating to get the pepperonis on there. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I could just use my finger and tap the pepperonis or just something. And it turns out I did a little bit of research. Number one, it seems like nobody else on Earth had a problem with the Switch 2 controls, which is insane to me because all y'all reviewers are being way too nice to this game, because even though this game is fun and cute, those controls like fucking suck ass, okay? If you don't have a problem with it, like I feel like you're lying. And number two, this game apparently was originally on Apple Arcade and also on iPhones and stuff like that. That makes perfect sense. I can see why you would want to use your finger. I wanted to use my finger as well. I wanted to finger this pizza, y'all, and I just couldn't do it. And it was really frustrating. I just don't think the sticks work for this game. It's just so irritating. So I bounced out of it. But Ron, thank you very much for the recommendation. I can totally see why you recommended it. And I think if the control issue wasn't there, I would have definitely gotten like way further in this game, because it was pretty fun to talk to the people and just serve them the pizza and see the smile on their face when they get it. Like, it's, it's pretty cool. I think it would be a fun little thing to chip away at, before bed, which is exactly what you said. Cause I mean, that's what I do. So I appreciate the call out, man. I just think that the developers needed to take a little bit more time to make the controls work specifically with the Switch, give you some options, or at least use the touchpad, man. Like, come on. Like, what? Anyway, good pizza, great pizza. It's pretty fun. If you're going to play it, definitely play it on like your phone or something that's got a touch interface. I do not think this game works well with the sticks, like at all, like not even a little bit. But anyway, other than that, pretty cool. Play it on a touch screen. I think you'll be fine. All right, next up, the second Survivors like of the show, Shard Squad. This is another Survivors like. It is a 2D pixely based game that is taking a lot from the Pokemon franchise. And in fact, at first glance, I think it would be very easy to mistake this game for being a Pokemon game if you were just like looking at screenshots really quickly. You'd be like, oh, new Pokemon game. What's that? So this game has a lot of backstory to it, like too much backstory to it. I sat through the opening cutscene and I was like, oh my God, please let me play the game already, because this is way too much backstory. I absolutely don't care, and I don't want this much backstory. There's a whole thing about, I don't even know, freedom and determinism and the wildness of animals and whatever. I was just like, oh my God, what? Like, just stop. So you go to this little treehouse area. There's like a couple little stations. You choose your starting Pokemon. Well, nope, not a Pokemon. Choose your starting animal. And then you jump into a survivors area. It's pretty straightforward, pretty small game. The area you play in is pretty small. Like, you hit the limits of it pretty quickly. Nowhere near as expansive as something like Vampire Survivors or something like that. You can see the edges of the map like within like a minute. The various enemy Pokemon, for lack of a better term, come crawling at you. You shoot them with your animal, and then you level up. It works exactly like you think it would. I think your characters feel pretty underpowered at the beginning. They walk really slow. Their rate of fire is pretty slow. I started off with one of this little animal. I think he's a fox or something, and he shoots like fire. And he just shot these piddly little fireballs for a while, and you just like slowly level up pretty incrementally. Didn't really get any crazy evolutions or anything. You eventually find other animals to join you, and it was really disappointing that when you get another animal to join you, very unlike yet another Zombie Survivors where your team stays on the screen and you work with them there, like you get another Pokemon to join you, and then they just pop up once in a while. Like every 5 or 10 seconds when they attack, they'll show up as if someone has just thrown a Pokeball. They do their attack and they disappear. So like, it doesn't really look that interesting. It's just not very impressive visually or gameplay wise. And you just kind of do that for a while. You level up, whatever. All the level ups feel incremental. When you get to the end of the stage, there's like these little star items that drop. And if you get those a bunch, you will evolve your Pokemon into like its next form. And then it'll get like, a slightly crazier attack. Like my guy had these piddly ass little fireballs. After I evolved him, he shot like, he looked different, like slightly different. And he got like 3 much larger fireballs. I mean, okay. But like, this genre is about like bombast and excess and numbers and about flash and about cool synergies and, finding mechanics and discovering things. And this game just is not that. It's just pretty straightforward. I think this would be a good basic Survivors for like, younger children maybe who are interested in this genre. After the first couple of runs, you unlock some more starting Pokemon, so you can choose a different starting Pokemon. After the fox, I used like a big shark who had a little shark on his back, and they had this like water wave weapon, and the little shark shot spitballs. I mean, it was like, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. Like, it's fine. But like, I play a lot of games in the Survivor genre. This genre is really heating up. There's a lot of competition, and I think it takes a lot to stand out. And as someone who is in general not like the biggest Pokemon fan, like having those Pokemon aesthetics wasn't really a big draw. Um, these particular animals, they have characteristics that are supposed to like enhance their synergy somehow. And they have these little, I don't know, like traits or whatever. So like when I was playing the shark guy, the shark twins or whatever, they're water people, obviously, and they have some other characteristic, ruthless or something like that. And when you get to choose new Pokemon to join you, you know, if there's one that has a matching synergized personality trait, it'll be lit up and you can choose that one. But I didn't notice what was different. It didn't feel markedly bit different. You know, I had the shark guy join up with the frog and they're both water people. And I'm like, okay, let's check the synergy out. It's what's going on. And it just looked the same. Like nothing was very interesting about it. It didn't really look different. It didn't really feel different. And the levels are pretty dull. There's a couple little mini events that crop up. Like one, I had to shoot hoops, which was kind of fun. One, I had to collect some flowers. It gives you a little something to do while you're doing like the basic survivor's grind, but it's just not that exciting. And I think controlling your animal is not that exciting. It doesn't look that exciting. You got to go bigger. You got to go bigger when you're doing survivors. Like you got to have like a gameplay hook. Something, you know, something like crazy synergy, crazy power evolution. Each run has to feel significantly different. And despite whatever Pokemon I chose, it didn't really feel that different. I mean, they did different attacks. Like there's one guy that does like a little scratchy stab. The one guy did a fireball. The shark guy shot water or whatever. I mean, cool. But they're all just basically doing the same thing. They just kind of look different and they didn't feel different. I didn't really play with them differently, which I think is kind of a bummer. So I think this one is, you know, kind of like Ground Zero Hero leaning on its like graining aesthetic. I think that Shard Squad is leaning on the Pokemon aesthetic. And I just don't think that aesthetics are what you can lean on in this particular genre. I don't think that's enough to carry it. If you don't have a really strong gameplay hook, I don't think it's going to stand out. And neither one of these, Ground Zero Hero didn't stand out, and Shard Squad certainly doesn't stand out at all. But again, it's cute if you have a kid who likes Pokemon, if you have a starting fan who wants a very simple, straightforward kind of survivors like to play with. And there's a lot of fucking lore in this game. If you want like fake Pokemon lore to read, there's a lot in here. I mean, it just is what it is. It's like utterly average and it just gets the job done, but just nothing really to recommend it, nothing to make it stand out. I will probably have forgotten I played this in like an hour, and I don't know. That's just not much to recommend it. So there you go. That is Shard Squad. Yeah, there it is. Next up on the list is Sizeable. This is a brand new minimalist puzzle game. I'm playing it on the Switch too. Just came out a couple days ago. This one, just full disclosure, I haven't like sunk a whole lot of time into it. I'm going to be playing it. It's going to be my new nighttime game this week, so I will play more as I get further into it, and I'll probably circle back on the next episode with more information about it. But this is one of those games that kind of gets off on the wrong foot with me by trying to avoid language or writing as much as possible. I hate it when developers do that, and it seems pretty obvious they're trying to do that here. They're not entirely successful, but basically you get these abstract little levels that are just kind of like suspended in space, and you look at them. And the hook to this game is that you need to figure out how to advance, and how you advance is by you mess around with these little levels. They look like little dioramas, little terrariums or something like that, little museum displays. And then you have to poke and prod at them. You can pick certain things up and move things around. But the real hook is you can make things bigger or smaller. So for example, in the very, very, very first level, you have like a generator and it's not running. And, you know, you just kind of assume, okay, well, it's not running. It's a generator. I probably got to get it to run. And that's how I advance, which is true. So you look around the level, there's like a teeny, teeny, tiny little battery that's way too small for this thing, but you pick it up, you put it where the battery goes, and then you poke it with your finger and it gets bigger. And when it gets bigger, it makes the generator run because now you have properly sized it. So most of this game is about growing things or shrinking things to either move them around to the right place or to get them to reveal like whatever secret they have. For example, in the next level, it's like a pirate ship level. You have a very small bay with a sunken boat, and there's a lighthouse, and there's a moon. And if you make the moon, I think it's to make the moon bigger, then it causes the tide to go out, and then the water level drops, and you can get to the boat at the bottom of the ocean. So that's kind of a neat thing. As you do stuff like that, you will find these little markers. And when you get like, I think 3 markers per level, you're ready to move on to the next level. And a lot of this is just experimentation. They don't explain anything at all. They'll say like, oh, make things bigger, smaller, rotate the screen, pick things up, but that's about it. And you have to kind of figure out like, how does this game work? What's the logic of this game? It took me a little while to kind of get in the groove of it. But eventually you mess around with each level until you find these 3 markers. You place the markers, move on to the next level. And there's also a hidden turtle in each level, which is cool. It gives you a little something extra to go for. But one thing I don't like about that is if you finish the level before you find the turtle, you just exit the level and have to start over. I wish it would just say, are you ready to leave? And if you're not ready because you want to find the turtle, you can be like, no, not ready to leave. Let me stay here and just keep looking. Which is something I wish they would add. I think that would be great. I've been kicked out of levels when I was done and I wasn't done with the turtle part. So that was kind of irritating to go back into it. It's interesting. This is like one of those very experimental, lateral thinking, poke everything, experiment with everything kind of puzzle games. It's very cute. It's very elegant. I wish they were a little bit more forthright about explaining a few things, just being a little more direct. That's my personal preference. But I think it's a great fit for the Switch too. I like it so far. And I will report back on this. I just want people to know that it exists. Check it out if you like new puzzlers, interesting puzzlers that try something different. I don't know that I've really tried one that messed around with like size and scale in this way. So I think it's pretty cool. It looks like there's quite a bit of content here. So I will chip away at it nightly. This will probably be my bedtime game. And we'll see what happens. So I will report back probably next week once I get further into it. But for now, just know that it exists. It seems pretty cool. I bet a lot of people listening to the show would probably really enjoy it. So heads up, that is Sizeable, playing it on the Switch 2. I believe it's also on other platforms as well. All right, last game of the show. And I have to say this one was a surprise. Not only in a surprise that I wasn't really planning to cover it until just a couple of days ago, but also a surprise in how good it is. Mortal Shell 2. Yeah, I'm surprised. For context, I played the first Mortal Shell when it came out a while ago. Basically, it's a third-person Souls-like. This is the first one I'm talking about, where you are some kind of like spirit or ghost or alien or something, and you take over the body of dead warriors. You just inhabit them, and it was basically like choosing a class. Like in the first Mortal Shell, there was a guy that was a thief. There was a guy that was like a tank warrior type guy. There was I don't know. There was like 4 or 5. I think like 5 different bodies that you could inhabit. And there honestly wasn't that much different between them besides a couple of stats. It was kind of a disappointing application of the body switching idea, but the world was very like moody and dark. It had some new ideas to apply to a Souls-like. One of the biggest ideas was hardening, where you could turn your body to stone for like a second. And if you did it before an enemy hit you, like it negated all damage. You could even do it against bosses. So if they did like an unblockable, you could just harden your body, turn to stone, they'd hit you and nothing would happen. And it was ropey and janky and there were problems, but it had a lot of promise. I mean, I finished it and I'm not going to say it was a hate play because it wasn't a hate play, but man, it took like all of my gumption to get through that one because there was a lot of sections that I thought were pretty rough. And I just, like I could see the potential there, but a lot of gotcha moments, a lot of cheap deaths. And it just, these guys were guys and gals and theys and thems were doing the best they could. And they had a vision and, I don't know. It was an interesting work, flawed, interesting work. But they're back. And I got to say, they have completely blown me away with my expectations, what I thought was going to be the normal escalation for them, what I thought they were capable of producing. Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I'm shocked AF at how good this game is. It's actually quite excellent. Little side note. Speaking of body swapping for just a second, I still don't quite think that Mortal Shell 2 capitalizes on the idea in the way that I want them to capitalize it, because I'm being a greedy little bastard and I'm wanting what I want. The game that I think comes closest to like what I think is a cool iteration of the body swapping ability is called Deathbound. I talked about it a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago. That was janky AF, really rough. But in that game, you collected bodies and you could switch between them on the fly. So like you could be, warrior, push a button, switch to a thief for backstab, push a button, switch to magic user for long distance attacks. Pretty cool. It was rough, but I liked Deathbound quite a bit. A tough play, but very, very cool and original. So if you want another iteration of the body swapping idea, Deathbound is pretty cool. Just be ready for roughness. Okay. Anyway, getting back to Mortal Shell 2. I don't want to start off with a negative because this game is actually great. It's great. It's fantastic. I'm surprised. In this particular game, same Souls-like approach, third person action. You've got a sword, dodge, parry, etc., etc. Like it does all the regular Souls stuff, but it feels like it's almost like a reboot of their core concept game and also like a reboot of their world a little bit. In the first Mortal Shell, they didn't really explain a whole lot, and a lot of it was just kind of like Souls-like mystery or whatever. In Mortal Shell 2, they really lean a lot more into storytelling, and they do something interesting. They really inject a big dose of cosmic horror into it. So you've got like your Souls-ish medieval type swords and armor kind of thing going on. But in addition to that, and on top of that, they do layer a lot of like Cthulhu-esque cosmic horror. There's stuff coming in from outer space. There are definitely extraterrestrial elements. There's a little bit of that infused with you yourself, who you are as a character. Your ability to swap between corpses is definitely like an alien outside of thing. There's all sorts of little elements that really increase like the cosmic horror. And I think that's excellent. I think that's a great combination. That's a chocolate peanut butter situation where you've got Souls shit going on and you've also got Cthulhu shit going on. That's fantastic. So big tip of the hat to the team for leaning into that side of things, beefing up the story, beefing up the mythology, the lore, but it's all easily approachable. I mean, it's just written in plain English. You can talk to a lot of characters around. Yeah, there's some things, there's notes to pick up, but barely any. And if there is a note to pick up, it's like 1 or 2 lines. So it's all on Front Street for you here. And I think they do a good job of that. And I appreciate when a Souls-like developer does put it on Front Street. You know, you don't have to watch a Videogames YouTube explainer to figure out what's going on. You can very easily figure out what's going on here, which is cool. I dig it. Okay, so what happens? Graphics are better. Control is better. They have changed a little bit on how the shells work and stuff. You play this like otherworldly thing, some kind of like being, and you are here to help the Mother, which is just like mother misspelled. And she is like an extraterrestrial thing, Cthulhu thing. This is all like revealed in the first like 2 minutes of the game. So this is not really spoiler. This is like you start the game and they tell you this right out of the bat. So this Mother is an extraterrestrial being. She comes to the planet after the events of Mortal Shell 1. They reference the ending of that first game kind of quickly, but whatever. They don't linger too long on it. It's not important. And then when she gets there, her otherworldly eggs are scattered throughout the landscape, and you are her minion to go and collect those eggs. She is clearly like a Cthulhu type thing. Some kind of weird cosmic horror that is here on Earth and speaks to you. And you got to do her bidding, and she gives you the power to like warp places and to take over these corpses and to gather her eggs back from across the landscape. There's a cult that sprung up who worships her and worships her eggs. The whole thing is very weird and strange and off-putting and very, very cool. Terribly cool. I love how they have put this together. Graphic design is great. I think the world looks excellent, especially after you tweak the brightness a little bit. It's a little bit dark. Once I turn the brightness up a little bit, it's perfect. And just like the detail, the thing about this game that I didn't expect is it's actually taking a lot of cues from Elden Ring. And I feel like this is probably the next Elden Ring after Elden Ring. So what I mean by that is you start off as this creature. You have a corpse that you're inhabiting. He's one of the soldiers from the first Mortal Shell. You go through a tutorial, you lose his body, and then you're just left as your vulnerable creature state. You need to find another corpse pretty quickly. You're kind of like a hermit crab in that you have a lot more protection when you're inside a corpse and you gain the abilities of that corpse. So for example, if you take over a thief, you've got his sneaking power. You take over this other lady, she's got like an electrical power. But when you die, you don't die right away. You, like the crab, get ejected from your shell, and then you're like in your vulnerable being state. You go down pretty quickly in that form. You don't have a lot of armor. You don't have access to any of the corpse abilities. You want to get out of that state pretty quickly. And how you do that is do some melee combat to build up your energy. And once you've built up that bar, you can resummon the corpse back and go back inside your shell. And that's pretty much where you want to spend most of your time. Um, so that's all good. That's all well and good, and that seems a lot like the first Mortal Shell. But the thing that you don't realize until after you get through the initial kind of like tutorial section is that it is Elden Ring. It's a huge world. It's not fully open. You're going to hit walls that will say, "Oh, you need to come back later." But there's a lot of territory to explore. There's like two different ways to go. Basically, the world is split in half. There's like a light half and a dark half. And I think the suggestion is that you go the light half first before you level up and stuff. But you can go the other side if you want to, and you just like wander around. You can find maps that are sold to you by a merchant that kind of tell you basically where things are, like where to find other bodies, where to find weapons, where to find important items. And they don't tell you exactly, but they kind of give you like a ballpark, and you kind of work your way over there. You search out map fragments to fill in your map, but you're just like wandering around. And there's tons of places to go. There's like, it's almost overwhelming how many places there is to go. I haven't even touched the dark half yet, and I've already been playing like a lot in the light half, and there's still a million places to go. So you just like search around, and much like Elden Ring, you'll find little dungeons scattered all over the place. And these fuckers can be anything. It could be, I've found a room with a chest. I have found a collapsing tunnel. I have found an entire other level. I have found like a puzzle dungeon. I mean, you go into these dungeons, it could be fucking anything. You got to be ready for anything to figure that shit out. So those are like a nice surprise, adding quite a bit of variety. They show up on your map. You can come back to them when you're done. You can check them off to say whether they're finished or not, to kind of remind you where you need to go, which is pretty interesting. And I think the shell mechanic is much improved this time around. You can't switch between them on the fly, which is fine, but you choose one. It looks like there's like 10 or 12 total. You can see them at the beginning of the game, but they're all grayed out. You have to actually find them before they're activated, but you can see how many there are. You find a couple that are pretty close to the starting zone, and then choose whichever one you want after you find them, which is kind of precarious in itself, because once you begin the game proper, you're just your inner being without the shell, and you're super vulnerable, and you're kind of like getting through this level trying to find a corpse pretty desperately, and you'll probably get taken out a couple times because you can only take a couple hits and you're weak and you don't have any abilities, and it's a pretty rough state to start in. But once you finally get a corpse, I think the initial two that are closest is, one is the thief guy. He can turn invisible for like mega backstabs. He also has this like special dodge. The other one is this lady who is obviously like an extraterrestrial. She is probably coming to Earth to hunt another alien that has made its way to Earth. That seems like a storyline that's going to pan out. And she has like this like skin tight armor, and she's got some mega booty going on. Not complaining, just stating a fact. And she's got like this like grappling hook thing going on and some electrical stuff, which is pretty cool. Another way that they lean into the shell aspect more than they do than in Mortal Shell 1 is like, when you go back to your hub, you go back to this hub and you can talk to different people, have various services, a shop and an upgrade thing and whatever. You can like enhance your bond with each particular shell. Like if you like a particular one, you can put more points into it. And as you put more points into it, you'll unlock memories. And so you will find out like the whole backstory. And it's not just text, like it's little playable sections that explain the history of these characters. So for example, the very first guy I found was the thief. He was the closest to the starting point. I'm guessing most people are going to find him first. He's the easiest to get to. And so you take over the thief, and it turns out he was like a guy who he caught a plague and he was sick and he had to get some medicine. He didn't have any money. He went to the local apothecary and he was stealing some stuff and whatever. So like it goes on from there. So they really they let you play those sections, and they're very brief little memory sections, but it goes a long way towards familiarizing you with these people and these characters and making you feel something for them in a way that was way more effective than in the first game. So you do that. I'm currently using the super booty lady, who I like a lot. I like her powers, and her story sections are actually, well, the first one was quite funny actually. And then they kind of lean into like more of her extraterrestrial aspect, and that's pretty interesting. So I'm looking forward to like meeting all of these other corpses eventually. You can buy clues to tell you kind of where they're at, and you'll get to all of them sooner or later, some sooner than others, which is pretty good. But then you just go back in the world, and there's like lots of secrets, lots of nooks and crannies, lots of ambushes, lots of places to explore. I mean, the world is just like huge. Seems really well put together and good. Just having a whale of a time, like putting these characters through their paces and leveling up and just like exploring. It definitely feels a lot like Elden Ring, how when you got into that main field, it seems like the whole world is stretching out before you, and there's just like all sorts of possibilities, which is great. Very, 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 very impressed with Mortal Shell 2. Feels like a huge step up from the first game. The first game, I'm not sure that I would have even recommended it to anybody except the hardest of the Souls hardcore. People who are ready to take on a very janky, lopsided experience just to try something new. This one, Mortal Shell 2, I think is actually like leaps and bounds better than that one. I think it's a much easier recommend, even though it's not necessarily easy, but it's better, well considered, more polished, more rounded. There's a lot more put into it. I'm sure the team the team must have grown exponentially in order to pull this off, because this is a project on a whole other level. Lots of moving bits, lots of little customization things you can do in your character. You can mix and match abilities. For example, the harden ability is still there, which was the hallmark of Mortal Shell 1. I'm not too crazy about that one, though, so you can switch it out to like a parry ability. There's also another ability as well that's just like, I forget what it does. But you can change them. So like you don't have to parry if you don't want to, or you can if you're really good at it. There's like a super parry if you want to go even further into parrying. If you don't want to do parry at all, you can do something else. So you can do lots of mix and match moves there. Each shell has its own special ability or special abilities, which is great. It just feels like a fuller, richer, more proper exploration of this Mortal Shell concept in a way that the first game only partially achieved. And I think that's pretty fantastic. My only problems with it so far, and I know that the team is working hard to patch. When I turned on the game this morning, there was a hot fix and a whole message from the team talking about all the fixes they had done. And it was a pretty extensive list. So they're working on rebalancing, fixing some bugs, so forth and so on. Problems I had with it so far, I do find that I am often backed up against a wall and the camera can't quite handle that. It doesn't happen all the time, but when you're in a narrow hallway or on a ledge, like on a cliff or something, it's possible to get backed up against a wall, and then all of a sudden it's really hard to see what's going on. So I wish they would fix that. I think that needs a little bit of fix. I think also there was a glitch in the game. The very, very first boss that I got to, I forget what he's called, like the occultist bloodletter or something like that. It's in the tutorial. There's no way you can miss it. I got to him the first time and I lost. I wasn't ready to do that battle. I was like low on life potions and he has like exploding minions. And so I got taken out pretty quickly. I was like, okay, well, I know what you do now. I'm going to get you the second time. I came back and he was gone. And that was a glitch. It's not by design. So I don't get to fight that boss again, which kind of pissed me off. And it felt, I was talking to John over at Gaming in the Wild about this, and he put it succinctly when he said, oh, that boss besmirched your honor. He beat you and then he took off and you don't get a chance to get your comeuppance. And that felt terrible. It does. It feels terrible. I wanted to come back and kick that guy's ass and get one over on him, and I just can't. It was a glitch. So that sucked. Hopefully they fix that. Because boy, that felt terrible. But on the plus side, I am glad to hear that it wasn't by design, because I think getting one shot at any Souls boss is a major breach of Souls protocol. So I'm glad that the developers did not do that intentionally. Kind of sucks. I'm not going to be able to kill that guy, but whatever. I'm still mad about it. Yes, I'm still mad about it. Yes. Pisses me off. Whatever. It's fine. I moved on. No, I haven't, but I will move on. I think those are the only other complaint I have is some of the save points feel pretty far apart. Jury's kind of still out on that. I'm still learning the systems. I'm still picking up map fragments. I'm still finding locations. I don't have a final say on this yet, but so far the bonfires, if you will, they do feel pretty far apart. And when you're in a dungeon, like one of the dungeons that you find across the landscape, I wish you would just start at the beginning of that dungeon, because there's been a couple that were unexpectedly tough, and it blows to like get killed in a dungeon and then get warped back to your last bonfire, which is probably a ways away. And then you've got to do the run up through the area to get back to the dungeon, then get in the dungeon, then get to the part of the dungeon where you died. That feels like a little bit too far. So I hope that the developers will let you restart at the beginning of any given dungeon. I think that would be reasonable. Because it feels like a little too few and far between at the moment. But those are pretty small complaints for what is a pretty superior Souls-like experience. I think the team's vision is much sharper, much more realized, much more intentional, and it feels much more balanced and correctly crafted, intentionally crafted. I am surprised at how much I'm enjoying it, and I really want to give a round of applause to the team for just like taking everything to the next level. Like, this is something that I definitely would recommend to Souls players, Elden Ring players, anybody who wants some good Soul shit. I'm only a fraction of the way into it. This feels like a pretty large experience, and I definitely want to get collect all the corpses and find all the characters. That seems like a really cool thing to do, so I'll probably do that. This seems like a pretty sizable experience. But even with the little exposure I've had to it so far, this definitely comes off like one of the Souls games to play this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends up on my top 10 list at the end of the year. So if it has not been on your radar, just like it has not been on mine, change that right away. I am surprised. I think this game has the juice. It is the shit, and I think it brings the heat, and I think that's not really in question. I think that's pretty clear to see. So if you like Souls, if you like Elden Ring, if you want some action, this game pretty much kicks ass so far. And I'll be the first to say that. I'm surprised to say that, but I am saying that. So check it out. Mortal Shell 2. It's got the juice. I will be reporting on this one as time progresses. Seems like it's going to be a long play, so we'll see how this goes. Okay. All right, folks. Game portion of the show is now officially done, but every week I do spend a few minutes in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right. It is time for the TV and movie roundup. First up is a British show that my wife found for us. It's called Ludwig. Or Ludwig, I guess, if you want to go that route. Be that way. I don't care. Go ahead. It's not brand new. I think it's from a couple years ago. It's about a guy who is like an introvert, like agoraphobic, introvert, socially anxious guy who's like a genius, and he does puzzles. He's a puzzle master. He makes puzzles for his job, crosswords and acrostics and whatever, word search, anything. He's got a twin brother who went into the police force. He became a detective. So these guys are identical twins. In the very first episode, and this is not a secret, this is like in the trailer, so this is not a spoiler. The police chief, or the detective brother disappears, and his wife has no fucking idea what happened to him. She needs help. So she calls upon the agoraphobic, socially anxious twin brother to impersonate him to find out what's going on. She wants him to go into the police station to find his clues, look at his desk, get some phone numbers, do anything to find out what happened to him. And he's just like freaking the fuck out. He's like, oh my God, this is illegal. I'm impersonating an officer. They're going to know it's not me. This is so weird. And he goes into it. And then in the very first episode, he like inadvertently solves a murder because of his puzzle skills. And everybody is just like completely blown away that he solved it like in 2 seconds. And it was just like a very logical deduction and stuff. So that's the first episode. Pretty interesting. We're going to watch more of it. I think it's like 6 episodes altogether, 6 or 8 episodes, kind of a typical British show, but it's funny. It's also a little suspenseful at times. I think it's more funny than suspenseful, but I am curious to see what happens. And I really liked how he used his puzzle ability to solve that murder. I hope they do more of that in the future. Like, you know, his crossword skills are going to solve this case, and it's going to figure out who did what and stuff. Pretty fun spin on things. So looking forward to more of Ludwig. The only other thing I'm going to call out this week is Star Trek Enterprise. The wife and I recently got caught up with Strange New Worlds. We're not starting season 4 yet because we want more episodes to be available before we hit that. So we're going to Enterprise. This is one of the only Star Trek shows I've never seen before. This is the one, this is the earliest in the Star Trek timeline. This is before Captain Kirk's time. This is before Captain Pine's time. This is the very first Enterprise with the very first captain of the Enterprise, Captain Archer, who is played by Scott Bakula, probably best known for Quantum Leap. Love that show. So he plays Captain Archer. And this is a really interesting show. So this is set so far back. This is like right after humans go to space for realsies for the first time. They're still like kind of under the Vulcans' thumbs, as Vulcans are the people who contacted them initially when humans discovered warp drive. So they're still like figuring things out. They think warp 4 is like really, really fast. And so they're excited about that. They're going out on a maiden voyage to do this thing. The ship, the first Enterprise, looks pretty different. On the inside of it, it looks very much like a Navy vessel. I've been inside some Navy ships before. And it looks like that. There's like gray metal and rivets all over the place, and the consoles are small. It looks like they're inside a battleship or a submarine or something like that. I've been inside both, and that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a Navy ship rather than spacey, you know, cool bridge Enterprise. It looks like they're inside a ship. Everything is smaller. It sounds different. The tech is low. They're pushing buttons on the wall to talk. They've got the flip phone communicators. They barely ever use the transporter because they're all scared of it because they think it's going to kill them all. And they use the shuttlecraft to go everywhere because they don't want to beam down to the planet because they hate the transporter. And I think the biggest thing is that it's like an all human crew except for one Vulcan who's on the show. She's like the science officer. Her name is T'Pol. I have never seen her before, but I know of her. And she's interesting, I guess. I think she seems a little bit too emotional for a Vulcan. I think they need to dial that back a little bit. But the rest of the crew are, I got to be honest, they're a little bit boring so far. They're all pretty just straightforward, like mediocre white guys. And to be honest, I'm having trouble telling them apart. Like Captain Archer, I know him because he's Scott Bakula. But like, there's like 2 or 3 other white guys, and I'm like, which guy is this guy again? And who is he? And what is his job? And I can't remember his name. I just keep getting the white guys mixed up. And one of them is like kind of Britishy, and I don't know what he does. And one guy is more of like I don't know, like a roughneck or something. I don't know what his job is either. It's kind of hard to tell the people apart. Like I need some more differentiation. And they've all got like kind of a military slant to them. Like they're like, I'm not going to say they're like the Go America kind of guys, but they're kind of like, Earth first, and we're out here, and all you aliens better watch out. And, like they've got a markedly different attitude as compared to like, Picard or Janeway or anybody else. Like after humans have been in space for, all that time, we've developed like these more egalitarian stances, and we're more accepting and knowledgeable of other alien races. In this particular series, they are just taking their first steps, and they definitely seem like a bunch of like dummy earthlings who don't know anything about the galaxy, heading out in their rickety rust bucket ship to try to like have adventures. They don't even have like shields or anything. So it's a weird watch. I'm interested to see how it goes. I get that it has its place in the timeline as like humanity's and Starfleet's first steps into the galaxy. So of course it had to start somewhere. Cast is kind of boring, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll say also, it has the worst opening theme song of any Star Trek show I've ever watched. I fucking hate it. It's like this weird early 2000s kind of like hair metal ballad. When me and the wife first heard it the first time, we were both like, what? Oh my God. Like we both look at each other like, what is this? What's happening? This is crazy. It really breaks from the mold as far as opening themes go, and I do not like it. That song sucks ass. Anyway, we'll let you know how it goes. I'm curious to see. It's a thing. It's a thing we're watching, I guess. So, all right, folks, that is a show. Before the closing music, would love for you to leave reviews, share it on social media, and most important of all, please recommend Videogames to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. And as always, would love to get your questions and comments. You can hit me up directly, sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach me on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's my name, BradGallaway, all A's, no O's. You can also get me on the Videogames Discord, which is totally free of charge to join. Just drop me a line through any of the channels I just mentioned, and I'll get you on board to continue the conversation for free. And finally, if you like this episode and you want to hear more, you can help support this show and sister site GameCritics.com by going over to patreon.com/the Videogames podcast. Every single dollar helps, and €1 helps that much more. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 502. Thank you again for joining me here on the Videogames podcast, and I'll see you next week.